Hello everybody, I am Battlescar1313 and today I wanted to do like a Bahamut style kind of Zeta Flare, Mega Flare ranking. Now, you'll notice Mega Flare is not on the list, Shadow Flare and regular Flare is not on the list either. These are the ones that I just chose, with them actually being ranked from I think lowest powerful to highest powerful. And so besides all that, I have played Final Fantasy 1 through 16, and I have good knowledge of all of them. I know it's nothing to be bragging about, but I have played them, and I do know all the story. I know all the mechanics, stuff like that about them. So my opinion is pretty good, but it's not going to be the same as everybody else's. And with that, I just encourage you to follow the trend and do your own ranking on your channel and start your own YouTube channel and see how it goes. So what we're going to start off with is the principles of which areas I'm going to rank the games in. I'm going to rank them in story because there are people that just play straight up for the story. And then there's battles, which is, pretty much what I play the games for. Side quests, which can be too easy or just freaking extreme. Then there's going to be cheats, and those are just going to be called quality of life improvements. But if you have a game that has 4 times EXP built into it, people are going to spend 4 times less in your game as you play. That's just facts. If you get to the end journey, you will be less. So we'll be going over those as well too. So we'll start off with Final Fantasy 1. And this is a good game because it's back when games were games. This can compare with like Tetris, Super Mario Brothers, Zelda, Donkey Kong, stuff that was released for the NES, stuff that was revolutionary. I mean, these games are unique. Final Fantasy was unique, and people would say it was like Dungeons and Dragons, but Dungeons and Dragons is like its own entire entity. It's like saying that it's the same. I mean, yes, there's some certain principles that are the same, but the games, they're it's like checkers and chess. Okay, it really is. So the story is when you're going through the game, you have like 20, 30 something NPCs. They all say something that kind of gets you a little bit of knowledge in the game, but it's so simple that, yeah, it doesn't take that many NPCs to tell a story, and you pretty much figure out that you want to kill Garland. It's supposed to be that way, because if you look at current gens, Strangers of Paradise, a Final Fantasy 1 origin, well, it's simple. The story is meant to. The whole world of Final Fantasy 1 is supposed to be that simple. And it's not supposed to be a complex thing, even on a current gen release. So, that's golden. Battles. What is unique about Final Fantasy 1's battle system? It is turn-based. That's something that's kind of unique. Then there is the fact that, let me think. There's the job system. But before I get ahead of myself, back on story, why isn't the Warrior of Light in the game? Okay, you are the 4 Warriors of Light. You go to each crystal and then you fight the end boss. Okay? Like, there are literally. Is like Warrior of Light just a Dissidia thing? I know he was in a PS1 copy of Final Fantasy 1. He was in a cutscene fighting a dragon, and I actually thought that cutscene was just Garland. I actually did. Because I didn't know who Warrior of Light was until Dissidia. Okay, back to battles. When you first start the game, you got a choice to pick between warrior, white mage, black mage, thief, red mage, or a monk. And you can pick any assorted types that you want. You can only pick 4 members at a time though. Now, the monk and the red mage aren't that great. The red mage is useful if you just want to get through the game story, and it's not useful if you want to unlock high tier stuff. It can't use the best weapons, and it can't use the best level 8 spells. Then there's the monk. The monk is not that great in the beginning, but when it levels up, it no longer needs equipment, and that's a big thing. It's less expensive because it doesn't need any armors or weapons. It can take a big hit, and sometimes it can't, but it can hit very hard. I think it's the most highest damage output of all the 6 jobs is the monk. Okay, so another thing about battles is, say you had the warrior, which most people usually bring at least one, and you had really high attack and strength, you'd think you'd do a lot of damage. And yes, this is the turn-based game. You get 4 characters, they all get a turn, then your enemies get a turn, and it just works like that. Then it resets. You get to pick your character's turn. Enemies and characters will take their turns. But when you hit an enemy, it's not just your attack and strength that's calculated, it's the amount of times you hit. In this game, the spell Haste increases the amount of times you hit, increasing the damage you do overall. So when you first start the game and you're doing 1 or 2 hits, don't worry, eventually you can do like 12 to 20 hits or some more. I don't know what the cap on hits is right now, but we'll see. As far as side quests go, I don't really think Final Fantasy II has too many bad side quests, and it was very simple. Getting the Excalibur, visiting Bahamut, all of those things were pretty easy to do. There was the whole Pixel Remaster side quest for the Platinum Trophy, and that was find every hidden item, find every chest, and complete your bestiary. And then luckily in Final Fantasy 1, there is no way to actually lock yourself out of any of those. So that was good for the Pixel Remasters. You know, you can't lock out of a hidden item or anything like that, or a bestiary entry. It's pretty cool. Nice knowledge. The cheats, the 4 times EXP, 4 times Gil, yeah. Players are going to play it 4 times less now. It's going to be one of those games where you got done so ridiculously fast, you put it away, and let's face it, like, it does have replay value because you can pick different jobs, but once you beat a game and you've like spent like a couple hours or more into it, you really don't want to continuously play over and over again. So while Final Fantasy 1 has good replay value because of the job system, it doesn't have good replay value because now everything is just so much simpler. I know I'm being picky, but it's a play and throw away title because a lot of these pixel remasters that do that, yeah, it's so much more easier to get away with. So the cheats are like the worst that I could think of. In this game, yeah, it is. The cheats don't do it any favors, and yeah, I don't imagine that many people would think that the cheats make the game better at all. So with that in mind, it's not a Zetaflare. People would think that this was like the best one in all Final Fantasy because it's the original. I don't think it's a Nano Flare. That's for sure. I just don't see it there. However, it was middle of the road of revolutionary and stuff like that, and original everything like that. I think it's a game. It's not the best game, it's not the worst game, it's just a game. So that's where I will place it. And we'll move on to Final Fantasy number 2. With this game, we had thrown the job system out of the way and we focus on the other part of Final Fantasy. They usually switch between the jobs system and the jack of all trades. In Final Fantasy 2, you're the jack of all trades. You can play any spell, any weapon, any armor you want. I don't think there's any exceptions. The story in Final Fantasy 2 is your three, I guess your siblings. I don't know. I don't know if you're related or not, but I'm pretty sure y'all are related. So there's 4 all together. The Emperor is the seducer. He can talk the whole world into following him, evidently, and he starts taking over. And the only ones that are clever enough that can stop him. Blah blah blah. You do meet extra party members. Some of them are cool, like Menru, which is like this sage type, oracle type guy. Then you actually have Ricard, which is the very first Final Fantasy Dragoon. It wasn't Kain. Kain was the best, no doubt. It just, Ricard was still cool. I think Ricard's probably cooler than Kain sometimes. But with the story, the way it is that you are generally weak characters throughout the game. And you go through the cycle of meeting characters and then them leaving and stuff like that. I think that overall, not many people like the story. You had keywords that you had to use to get through it, and if you didn't have those keywords, you just had to go find them. So it's a low point. I'll be honest. Like, the story's not the best in Final Fantasy 2. I think if it got a Strangers of Paradise 2, Final Fantasy 2 Origins, it would be better than Strangers of Paradise 1. Final Fantasy Origins. I do think that Emperor would have more of an interesting story than Garland did. I think that the story, the way it ends, I'm rightfully going to add the Blood Sword as like part of the story, just because of how epic it is in this game and how useful it is during the last boss fight compared to any other weapon you have, even Excalibur. I think that the Blood Sword generally is how most people get through the final boss. So now we'll just go straight into battles. And again, I said you're usually a weak character throughout the whole entire game. That's because this game is strictly about grinding. Okay? This battle system is why it took me 30 straight hours of grinding just to reach max stats. And that's with like max weaponry, mastery, and spells and stats. I think that this game offers a lot for the first one to be a freelancer type game where all your characters can do everything. I think this one provides a lot of hours of grinding because you're generally weak characters and there's only one way to get stronger, and that's by continuously playing. So if you play games and you want them to last a long time, this game's for you. Yeah, this game is definitely for you if you'd like to sit down and play it over and over again. You don't really worry about the story too much. Then with the side quests, now this is where it's a little different. There's not many side quests in this game. There are a few, and it does have the Pixel Remasters, hidden items, chests, bestiary, achievements. But I mean, besides this certain dragon area, I just don't see that many side quests. within the game. Maybe enemy drops or something. However, with the cheats, I say this one had the best cheats of all. Well, the NES games, at least. Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 were NES games, just disguised as PS4 games now. Uh, the cheats were needed, I think, because it took me 30 to 40 hours of grinding just to complete the game. And that was with the cheats. And if I wasn't to do that, it would have took 4 times as long. Probably more. So the whole entire throw off here is a lot of people would say this is like the Nano Flare section of Final Fantasy, but I don't agree to that. I would say that this is an improvement of Final Fantasy Part 1. And I say that because I had a lot more fun at the end game with Final Fantasy 2 than I had at the end game of Final Fantasy 1. And it's weird, I know, but I got my money's worth with Final Fantasy 2. I definitely did. It kept me playing that game to reach my desired results the whole time. So with Final Fantasy 3, let me think about this one. Okay, it's got every complaint that I had about Final Fantasy 1 fixed in this one. You got 4 party members as Final Fantasy 1 did. You no longer have to be an assorted mix of the 6 jobs that you had in Final Fantasy 1. You can actually change jobs whenever you want in Final Fantasy 3 without losing characters, without anything. It's just you can switch jobs. Now, the story is that you're the 4 Warriors of Light, and this sounds familiar, but you want to banish the darkness from the world, and in order to do that, you got to fight the Cloud of Darkness. Now, Garland was part immortal. Emperor was, very tough to beat. But Cloud of Darkness in Final Fantasy 3, it had mortality, meaning like one of its greatest gifts was that it could die. So for a villain, it's not that great. Okay, a lot of people would say it. There's many good reasons why that villain went bad. But it does fit in with the scheme of find a location and defeat boss. The story is well played for Final Fantasy because there's certain sections where you kind of like use your brain and cast Small or Frog on your characters. It makes you think. But once you get done with that story part, you usually don't have to go back to those areas. Once you've perfected and got all the items and just enemy entries and all that, you usually don't have to go back to them. So having to include that in your story was kind of like QTEs, but yeah, it was annoying, but it actually adds some flavor to the design of Final Fantasy 3. You don't have side characters. Well, actually, I'll take that back. You do have kind of side characters. They can assist you during parts of the game, but mainly it was done better in the Final Fantasy 3 DS, is what it was called. I think that was the best version of Final Fantasy 3 I played. And battles system wise, yeah, okay. The object of the game is another turn-based, like in Final Fantasy 1, and I think Final Fantasy 2. In Final Fantasy 3, the jobs were very much the same. I mean, I played it so many times. You usually just need an attacker, a white mage, a black mage, and another attacker. It's going to get you through the most of the game with that kind of a setup. You can change jobs at any times. This is a big hint. If you want to get max HP for any job, you're gonna have to try and get the black belt and all the other versions, but the Viking job class and the Pixel Remaster. I think it, I think it's either black belt or monk. It's the one job class and the other ones. The black belt or monk. It's the one that you unlock at the very near end of the game. It's right before you get to the Crystal Tower. So that's the final dungeon. That's when you unlock the black belt monk that I'm talking about. But Viking and the Pixel Remaster, if you unlock it before I think it was like level 19, then as long as you were a Viking in the Pixel Remaster at 19, as long as you leveled up, you would get 9,999 with any job class after maxing out your health and your level. So that was interesting. It's like, okay, so I unlock the Viking and now I just switch to the Viking job class and I level up as it. It was a nice change of pace. So the thing I liked about it is when I first played it, I was using the white mage and the black mage a lot, which is not generally something I would suggest nowadays. You get like the Devolt and the Magnus or something. I forget what they're called, but they're upgraded versions of the white mage and the black mage. And it's totally worth it, even though you can't tell in the beginning. When you first change, the change is needed. So even if you were really high leveled on your white mage or black mage, switch to the upper classes. The side quests on this side, let me think. They took a lot of the side quests out from the Nintendo 3DS version. So there is still some side quests. There's a couple towns and summons that you don't have to do. So that's side quest. Carries along the hidden item, chest, and bestiary of Final Fantasy 1 and 2. Has the Onion Knight gear that you can farm. And again, we'll go back to cheats, because in this game, the cheats are very much affected the same as Final Fantasy 1. It makes the game just easier, and that's not really a good thing, but it's not a bad thing either. And with that, I'm still gonna put it on par with Final Fantasy 1, because I think that's just my opinion. But it's an extra flair. So with all the things I said, it does improve on Final Fantasy 1, but it's still, an NES game. So I know Final Fantasy 2 was ranked so high compared to those. I mean, one higher, but it's just because it literally took more time to play Final Fantasy 2 and get everything than it did for Final Fantasy 1 and 3. But now we're going to move on to Final Fantasy 4. This is probably a lot of the players' favorite Final Fantasy game. As the story, you go through, I would have to say it's a job system game, but that's not literally it. And it's not mercenaries either, because not everybody can do everything. Not unless you're playing the 3D version. I would have to say that this is the first fully scripted game. You have select job classes that the characters can't switch out of, and you have no customization over them. You just gotta play them as they are. You go through the game with every character developing several times through it, getting stronger, getting weaker, you name it, the characters go through it. Then it pulls out like a twist about family relations and stuff like that. The story is so cool compared to Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 because you have like 3 world maps you can have, and it, spoiler, you can go underground, which like has a whole bunch of areas to go to, and then it has the surface world. Then you can even fly to the freaking moon anytime you wanted to. It was actually pretty cool in story. It was revolutionary. This might actually be one of my favorite Final Fantasies, but we'll go over more stuff. So the story and the battles almost intertwined because of the attitude of a Dark Knight suited Cecil, and when he turned to Paladin, suited him. Manoa, I mean not Manoa, Rydia, Black Mage, acts like a Black Mage summoner. It's just their jobs were intertwined with the story, in my opinion. And the battles, uniquely from the story, yes, you do a lot in the story, but the battles, I think. Okay, so you're stuck with 5 characters at the end of the game, and you can play with up to 5 characters at a time. In Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3, you could use 4 characters. In FF5, you can use 5. Oh no, in FF4, you can use 5 characters. So 1, 2, and 3, 4 characters. Final Fantasy 4, 5 characters. Really different. It's really big difference because I think this is the only one where you get 5 characters. Oh no, 15. And yeah, the MMOs. But wait. Yeah, I think that's it. So there are one thing that you really have to look out for is sirens, extra summons, and rare item drops. And that's pretty much the battle system in a nutshell. Is you're gonna have to fight a lot of times if you want to get the perfect gear for your characters and the perfect health and all that MP. It's pretty much given, like, I think it's like a 5% chance that enemies drop an item. Then it's it's 1 out of, I would say, hold on. Okay, no, I'm correct. There's up to 4 items an enemy can drop. Only 5% of the menu is going to say that they drop something. And to get the rare drop is very low. So instead of leveling up being the problem, it ended up being getting the rare drops. However, during the middle of your levels around 69 and 70, your stats can go up and down depending on your level. So it's best to like save when you level a character up because their stats can actually go down. And if you see them go down or you see them don't spike up as much as you want them to, you reset and you retry. So that was unique. The characters that can no longer be played in the Pixel Remaster was kind of disappointing. Those are some of the best characters in the game, and being locked with your Final 5 wasn't terrible. It just wasn't exactly a home run in my eyes. With the side quests, I would put the drops in as the side quests. The Pink Tail is one of the main side quests. Excalibur, yep, there's that side quest. Okay, this has got quite a bit. It really does, because it's got the Silph Cave and all that. That's optional as well. So, yeah, if you wanted, you could spend more time in Final Fantasy IV doing side quests, and they were rewarding enough to merit saying that the side quests were done pretty good. I mean, yeah, can't complain. With the cheats, again, you'd make them games too easy. Not everybody's gonna play them. So I don't think in Final Fantasy IV the cheats were needed at all, and they were left minimal. Minimal. Let me think about it for a second. The cheats, yeah, we're done with that. Final ranking. I'm gonna put it at Terraflare with Final Fantasy II. It's not a thing that I have with mercenary characters. It's the time that I put into a game that really reflects in the rewards that I do put into it. I think in Final Fantasy II and Final Fantasy IV, I put the most time in out of the ones mentioned so far. I think it's just worth saying that. So for now, we'll just move on to Final Fantasy V, which includes the job system again. And this time it did some stuff. Okay, you're kind of a mercenary, like in Final Fantasy 3, you could change jobs, and this one was not that different except for the battle. But let's just go to the story. You're the Warriors of Light, and you go through the world in 3 different phases, and that's pretty cool because you get to see the world through like the world of light and world of darkness kind of side, and then the merged world. It is a bad thing because there's so many missable things now in Final Fantasy 5. It's gonna be one of those you know hard to remember where everything's at kind of games, in my opinion. And if you wanted to get one of every item, you're gonna have to know what enemies had the stills for it. The return spell was pretty useful, but the story mode, yes, going through each phase of the world was interesting. Exdeath, excellent villain, and yeah, there's a point where he catches 3 Warriors of Light, and then he makes this big hologram for the world to be able to see, and it's the Warriors of Light imprisoned in his dungeon, and he's calling out for the other Warriors of Light to come and like save him because Exdeath thinks he can take him. I mean, go Exdeath. That's a boss move. That's a boss move. How do we say it? That's a boss move right there. The battle system, once Exdeath is defeated, the battle system is good. It's got an interesting thing. I think that this was one of the best job systems Final Fantasy has done up until now. It could be debated whether the other ones that you could mention just copied Final Fantasy V, because like there's Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy X-2. They kind of copied 5, but this is the best job system. You get to be any job you want, plus any job you've already leveled up some, if you want it to be. It is truly a masterpiece. It really is. And you can be a white mage, but be like a level 5 black mage too. An interesting fact is that during the battle, if you're a black mage, you are the maxed out black mage. Okay, you don't have to learn black mage level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like, as long as you got the black mage job on, you can use all the black magic spells. But in order for you to use all the black magic spells as like say a red mage, you're gonna need the black mage mastered. It's very good. The story, going over it. I think breakable items are a thing in this game, where if you use an item, it'll cast a spell and it'll just break, making actually spell casting so much more worthwhile. The spells and stuff that you got, you would get them at shops, and every character would just be able to use them. The return spell made stealing rare items kind of easy, in my opinion. There was the Tinkle Bell, which was pretty good, interesting little find there. Uh, Blue Magic and got introduced into this game. I don't think it was in Final Fantasy 4. No, it was in Final Fantasy 5. So we got Big Guard in this one, Mighty Guard, whatever you call it. The side quests. Yeah, you can get Mime. You can get legendary weapons, sealed weapons they call it. You can do quite a bit. There's a lot to do in side content. You have certain areas that, like the magic lamp area, Leviathan, you can go to that. Let me think. Where is Bahamut in Final Fantasy V? Is he a shop? He might be a shop item. I forget exactly where you get Bahamut in Final Fantasy V. I know I'm experienced and stuff. Just throwing one of those things we call a brain fart. No, you gotta fight him. I think he's in the merged world. No, probably Bahamut's lair or something. But yeah, there's Odin. You can fight Odin. Yeah. The cheats, again, this one, I'm thankful for them. Again, like in Final Fantasy 2. Because with the cheats in Final Fantasy 5, it's hardly impossible to break the game with them. 4 times the XP, guess what? You're still going to be low level by the time you reach the end of the game, probably. Low gil, yeah, low ability points. I'm just gonna call them ability points. I think it's ABP, but ability points are so low throughout the entire game that putting 4 times ability points would be worthwhile. So I think that that's interesting to point out that it in Final Fantasy V the cheats weren't that bad. So with this, with all of its glory, would this reach Zetaflare because of its awesome job class? I don't think so. And I just didn't like grinding in it for levels and ability points as much as the other games. I just put in Terraflare. So it's gonna be, I would say, extra flare. I'm I'm just saying the game has so much missable content that I can't get all the way behind it with the 3 different phases of the world you can't really go back through and redo. So with that, I do remember many times missing out on like a piano or certain item and I just had to recomplete my whole entire game all over again. I'm gonna have to put it in Gigaflare because of that reason. So I am so sorry, but that's just how it goes. Alright, give me a second here. Okay, and yes, I'm sorry for Final Fantasy V fans, but we're going to move on to Final Fantasy VI. And, okay, this is a good one. Again, like what I said with Final Fantasy IV, it's one of my favorites. Story, it's steampunk. It's, brings back the kind of style of Final Fantasy II, where your characters can pretty much do everything. I guess that wouldn't be true. It kind of brings back Final Fantasy IV, where your characters had a set job, but it didn't bring in that element after a while where every character could cast every spell. So that was interesting. Um, so we're gonna compare it to Final Fantasy IV in story, and say that there's just so many more characters you can have in Final Fantasy VI. Then there's more summons and probably more magic spells in general. However, we're just going to go over the story real quick. You're a lady and being controlled by the Empire. You don't like the Empire, so you join the Resistance team and you go to eliminate the evil in the world. No, eliminating crystals or anything. You do get Magasarge or Magasite, but it's not anything um, that haven't seen before. I mean, it's, well, let me put it this way. It's a very good game. The story has no lead character, and it's one of those games where you have to be able to withstand the enemy actually winning for a little bit, because the enemy, I mean, the game lasts for a long time. It does go through the same problems I had with Final Fantasy V, with some missable content here and there from areas changing and stuff, but it wasn't that bad. And if you played Dissidia, you know that Kefka is the main bad guy. I never thought of him to be a Joker type villain. I always expected him to be Brawler or something, but a clown. He's still a clown. I just thought he would be more beefier in when I played Final Fantasy VI than he is in Dissidia. But with the full cast and unique areas that you can go to and the unique characters, abilities, and all that, I think it's just a really good game. The battle system, well, like I said already, through the story, each character has a unique command, but then they can also all equip the same summons and the same magic spells. So that's generally unique. Another thing is that you want to avoid getting EXP throughout this game, because if you do, the Espers you fight, the Espers you gather, they'll help raise your stats permanently, faster than leveling up could ever do. It's almost essential to use the right Espers during level ups during Final Fantasy VI. But people don't, and they do just fine. But if people have a hard time with Final Fantasy VI, maybe it's because you are playing it wrong. Look at the Espers you're using. Don't just look at the spells, look at the bonuses they give during level ups. Try and raise strength, speed, and magic as high as possible. Well, all the way up to about 100, and then I'll just switch to a different one. But still, raise up your speed, magic, and then agility if you can. The side quest, A+, okay? Yeah, there is so many side quests. So starters, in the second phase of the world, you don't have to recruit all your party members. You can finish the game with 4 party members, maybe 3. The thing is, it gives so many areas for side quests that it's half the game. It is officially the first Final Fantasy where half the game is in-game content, and that's unique. That's a trend we'll start seeing in later Final Fantasies. So, the quests were very well done, and the cheats, okay? Now I'm gonna sound one-sided or two-faced or whatever, but the cheats were done perfect. You had the 0 EXP option. That means that I didn't have to worry about running from every battle, which made skipping this rat section so much easier. Like when I first played this, or every time that I played this besides the Pixel Remasters, I'm in this attic and there's these rats running around, and it took me 2 weeks one time to get through that area, meeting both types of rats and not getting in every fight. I got in the minimum amount of fights. I met the enemies that I was wanting to meet, and I got out of there. But with 0 EXP cheat, that really did help save up the bar. Overall, Final Fantasy VI is going to be my first Zeta Flare. I think that this one woke people up into all the other Final Fantasies. I think that this was the um, greatest one that they had in the Pixel remasters, and the only reason it's a little bit better than 4 and 2 is it's got more characters, so more reasons to keep on playing. And yeah, it's a really truly remarkable game. And now we'll just switch to everybody's favorite, Final Fantasy VII, the second easiest Final Fantasy. Also a Final Fantasy for beginners because it's, you know, still a game. It's not the prettiest graphics. Some of the soundtrack just is so beautiful. It fits the games, it fits the cutscenes, and I haven't heard a soundtrack this good in any of the other Final Fantasies yet. I mean, I don't think any of y'all are going to be able to sit there and point out a Pixel Remaster track that I think is top tier. Well, the opera scene in Final Fantasy VI. But other than that, I mean, Final Fantasy VII, it just really does have a good soundtrack, and that's kind of what makes the game, is the emotional effect of the music. Fits along when you meet Aerith, it fits along when you meet Tifa, Barret, all of them. It just, each character has their own theme. It's a good soundtrack. The story is, well, it's spoiled by a lot of players nowadays because they play Crisis Core originally, and that ruins all of Final Fantasy VII's pre-story game. Or like, you know, it just Crisis Core ruins Final Fantasy VII's big twist in the middle of the game. And so if you just play this game, you go in, it's just a normal game. You know, you're playing along and reading the dialogues and stuff, and the music and just it can immerse you into the world. Made up people like me spend hundreds of hours in it, just testing various bugs or something. Or, you know, it was a very good game, and a lot of people would say it's the greatest game of all time. But when you say that, you know, Halo was the greatest game of all time because it was so unique, stuff like that, you know, like Ocarina of Time, Super Mario Brothers 3 or something like that, like something everybody's played that they can say was good. And like Resident Evil 4, you know, and Final Fantasy 7 kind of carries Final Fantasy through a lot of the money making because it's just such a good title. The battle system is very good. It's, you know, kind of like you're all freelancers. You can usually do everything. The only thing that makes each character different is their limit breaks and their weapon. But, you know, the weapon hardly does anything when you got the long range materia. Speaking of materia, this one's got a lot. It really does. How would I say it? It's strange that no other Final Fantasy has come out that's copied Final Fantasy VII's materia system. They could use quartz, they could use crystals, they could have used spears in Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X with the materia system would be pretty cool. But there's plenty of glitches, which makes the battles kind of seem easier than what they should be. But otherwise, it's still like the golden age of Final Fantasy, so we'll go with side quests. Now, this is where a lot of people are going to not like my opinion. The side quests, there's a lot of them. And since there's such a variety of them, and you got a race car, you got a Coliseum, you got a snowboard, you got like a submarine, you got chocobo racing. Since there's a lot of them, you'll think it's good. But the longer you are in the side quest that you choose, the more you realize, wow, I'm doing this for really like one item or something, like it takes a long time to actually complete the side quests in this game. Sometimes. I mean, yeah, it depends on how long you think a long time is, but yeah, the Coliseum gets pretty boring after a while, and so does Chocobo Racing. So, with the cheats in mind, oh wow, this is where I really, really start hating the cheats. Um, let's say you get invincibility, full limit gauge, you get no encounters. I don't think you need any more. Okay, it's just out of hand. Again, it broke the game, where there's no challenge left in it. And so I'm just going to base this version of Final Fantasy VII not on the ones that we got nowadays, but I'm going to base it on the original. And I'm still putting it in the Zeta Flare territory just because I know it was such a good game, and it truly was. I mean, and it's probably always going to be. We're just gonna put it there. Um, and there was really no denying that. Uh, it is one of the easiest ones too. So I think Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 7 are the two easiest Final Fantasies. But more on that. I mean, 16 could probably be easy for you if you use the Ring of Timely Evasion and stuff like that. But we're just going to go on and move to Final Fantasy VIII now. In Final Fantasy VIII story, you're kind of like, you're given the mercenary role again, where everybody can do everything. They can equip the same GFs, they can equip same magic, stuff like that. Same abilities, same stuff like that. So everybody can do everything. The story involves you being a seed member, and you gotta destroy the sorceress throughout the whole entire story. And while it might seem like it differs, it's basically that. Um, Going through the story can be kind of tedious when you're keeping up with the side quests, because you gotta like eliminate the random rule for one. I don't know if you can live with it, but I don't like to. Um, there's a lot of stuff during the story that you can miss, like certain character cards. I mean, I guess you can't miss them, but yeah, you can. You can miss them. So, in order to 100% the game, I think this takes a long time through the story than the other ones. While there's really nothing missable that much, it's still very, very hard to get through the whole entire game. Drawing every GF that a boss might have and stuff like that. There's there's a lot of things that you might miss during the story, but once you defeat the sorceress, all is good until you rewatch the opening scene and realize that the end of the Final Fantasy VIII actually just rolls over into the beginning, because you go back into the past. In the beginning cutscene, it still says about that wish Squall and Rinoa meet and stuff. They make, I'll be here uh, in the forest, in the flower meadow. They're like, I'll be here. It is literally the beginning of the game is rewinding all of the game itself. And the end of the game, there's time travel involved. And throughout the adventure, Squall talks to himself and stuff like that during the story, which you kind of understand why if you're a really big nerd like me. However, we're going to go through the battle system next, and this is where a lot of people just don't like Final Fantasy VIII. You got to draw magic, or you be smart and you refine magic. You have to stay a low level and use level up bonuses, or you spend hours grinding the same monsters for those said bonuses. Uh, there's plenty of side quests, don't get me wrong, and they're not, too tedious either. I don't think that many of the side quests get so long that you think of giving up. I mean, yeah, I really don't think there's that many side quests that are too bad. So, as far as cheats, again, okay, they broke the game. You can be full invincible, full aura break. You can have no encounters without equipping Diablos. It just doesn't make sense. And 3 times speed, I get it. I get it. You're wanting to rush people through your games now, Square. But that's because that's why people aren't playing them anymore. You've made them entirely too easy. And everybody says, what's your favorite Final Fantasy? Well, if they added on to each one of their Final Fantasies, people would probably still buy it. And I understand with voice acting that's impossible, but with the earlier Final Fantasies, give us extra content. However, the cheats just broke the game. Now, I'm not saying this is a Zeta Flare. I just don't think that this was one of the greatest games that Final Fantasy offers. I don't think it's a Nano Flare or a Giga Flare. It might be a Giga Flare. Let me really think about this. I do enjoy the game. I think it's got beautiful graphics. The summon animations are good. I think for now we're gonna put it in Extra Flare. Extra Flare will be its home for a little bit as we move on to Final Fantasy IX, and I'm gonna take something to drink, so hold on just a second. Okay, I'm back, and yes, we are heavily judging Final Fantasy IX now. I have to say, the best thing Final Fantasy IX does for me is the story. Okay, it's got a very good story, and each character has these active time events, which spells ATE and abbreviations, which is 8, which for some reason eating in this game is a big thing. The story is so impactful that there's hardly any reasons to sit aside and start grinding. Most of the grinds, like Chocobo, Hot and Cold, you can do at the end of the game. It's totally skippable. But as far as like earlier Final Fantasies, I don't think that any of the other characters in those games had more story-related events than Final Fantasy IX. I think it's like the first Final Fantasy and maybe only Final Fantasy where you see so much of the stories of the characters that it's hard to hate any other characters. There's just so much to like about them. So the story's not the problem with me with Final Fantasy IX at all. The battle system had never. This gets to me because I like to hit quad 9 every time. I like to have 9,909 HP, 9,000 or 999 MP. I like to be overpowered, and in Final Fantasy IX, I just can't really get my characters overpowered. I can't have them to the point where, like, the last boss, Ozma, is a joke. Um, and that's actually one of my quirks with Final Fantasy IX, is that you're just not able to be the best at it without putting in the practice and the work within it. So the trance system, for example, in the battle system is not that great because it's the limit break meter from Final Fantasy 7, but in Final Fantasy 9 you have no command to use your trance. It's just you enter trance whenever your trance limit is full, and sometimes it can happen right before a boss fight, and you got to go through that whole boss fight without trancing. So yeah, the battles are not so great. Side quests, on the other hand, now this is a 50-50. I'm going to tell you why it's 50-50. Hot and Cold is one of the best Chocobo side quests I've ever played. Other side of the note and coin and fence is, what is it, Tetramaster? I cannot like that game, and I don't think a lot of people can. It came out with Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy XI, and neither players liked the Tetramaster. The cards, unlike in Final Fantasy VIII, didn't give you any unique items, and there was no reason to play it, so it was pointless and one of the worst side quests ever. However, there's a 1,000 jump rope, which is infamously annoying. Most people cannot do the 1,000 jump ropes. Then, yeah, there's just certain side quests that are done good and are fun, and then there's just some side quests that are crazy, like the Excalibur 2 side quest. Like, most people don't want to know about it. Cheats, they upscale it. This game right here, it does cheats in a different way. You can hit for all quad 9. You can never lose HP unless you got KO'd. There's a lot of cheats. You can do no encounters, full trance and health. I just don't know how many cheats there are, because you can max your magic stones, your item inventory and stuff like that if you disable trophies. So you can actually have 99 Excalibur 2s. You're just not going to get any trophies if you do that, you know? Then, yeah, so the cheats are another kill for this game. So, I'm putting this back on Giga Flare. I know a lot of people would sit there and say that Final Fantasy IX is one of the greatest of all time. I don't think so, because in a way the graphics are too childlike and made for kids, when Final Fantasy 7 and 8 was like edge lords, you know, in their own little way. So, sorry Final Fantasy 9 fans, I'm not that big of a fan of it. And now we have Final Fantasy 10. How we're going to treat Final Fantasy 10. We're going to go through the story, which basically, you're from Zanarkand, which gets destroyed by Sin. You wash up on a beach, and then you enter this pilgrimage to try and defeat this almighty Sin creation. Yeah, so I think you get multiple characters, but I think you get all of the characters almost at the very beginning of the game, and then you get like 2 later on, Auron and Riku. But still, like, the story in this game is half the game. Or it's good now, 30-40 hours of it. Maybe more or less, I don't know. But what Final Fantasy did for the first time in a lot of people's eyes was really expand on the in-game content. Okay, there's a difference between the final boss, Final Fantasy X, and then like penance. Okay, it's a huge, huge difference between the regular bosses and then side bosses. There's just so many side quests. I would say it falls under the same little quirks about sevens. The side quests, how some of them just get so long and boring, you wonder why you're still doing it. But overall, it's not really that bad of a game, unless you're a 100%er. Because if you unlock everything in the game, it's going to take you a long time. It took me a long time. And yeah. So with the battles, as long as you defend or use at least one action with every character, even defend, you'll gain spear level EXP every battle. But if you only use your main three, you'll find out that your main three gets considerably stronger than your other characters who stay in the back and don't do anything. I think that Yuna is one of the best characters in the game because unlike all the other characters' overdrives, Yuna's overdrive corresponds to her summons, and her summons pretty much give her extra characters. So Yuna has like two sides to her, one that relates with her friends, her guardians, and then one that relates with summons, which are her, you know, arsenal of usage. Cheats for this game, thank you for not making them square. There's hardly any cheats on this game. There is one thing that I would note about this game on the PS4. There's this day one patch, and it's really like the smallest patch in the world. What it is the day one patch, and there was one point where I knew that if I entered the Omega Ruins, that I could get 99, I think, warp stones. 99 warp stones, I think is what it was, or it could be in something else. But it was in the Omega Ruins, and the spawns for the chests were random because the day one patch, if you read the update file, it says random chests are truly random. So when I went to the Omega Ruins for the first time, before I did that, I deleted the day one patch, and then I reinstalled the app and just paused the patch from even being downloaded, and I ended up getting the 99 items that you can get for opening all the Omega Ruins chests. That's the only kind of cheat that I was able to find in Final Fantasy X. Just don't think there's much. I mean, unless you want to count Yojimbo respawning over and over again, or what it was, Dark Yojimbo respawning. I just don't think that that's a cheat, and I don't think it's one of the games that are still the best because there is no cheats. Okay, like it's fair game, and it's when the stakes are high with players. It's what causes controversy. If it's too easy of a game, people are gonna say, "Oh no, it's not that great." So on the ranking list, okay, most people would put it right here, Zeta Flare. I'm not going to, because I would mainly say maybe Terra Flare. Terra Flare, let me think. Is up to par with 2, 4, and 6. It did take me a long time to master that Spear Grid, so I did get my money's worth of gameplay time. I'm not a big fan of the side quests. I'm not a big fan of the Titus character, or Titus either. Yuna's pretty cool. Lulu's pretty cool. Waka is known for being racist, and nobody likes racists. Um, I'm gonna have to put it in extra flair. Personal opinion, again, is it's just it might be the best Final Fantasy for our generation right now, but voice acting ruined an aspect in Final Fantasy to me that can't be fixed. And it was turn based and battle systems and stuff like that. It just wasn't my favorite Final Fantasy. And a lot of these ones coming up is going to be ones that I critically would say aren't that great. Final Fantasy X is pretty decent, but so is 1, 3, and 8, and they got extra flair too. So right away, Final Fantasy 11. When I was playing this, it first came out, I thought that it was a Final Fantasy. I'll just grind until I can solo the whole game. But the game is made for you to join parties and bully up on a single enemy rather than spend most of your time grinding alone and soloing the whole game. It's it wasn't much of a story, and some of the game can be quite challenging to the point it's all about is you have the money to play because you got to buy the game and you got to pay the fee to continue the subscription. So with that in mind, that it has hardly any story to it and stuff, and I just didn't get that long to actually play it when I did. I'm gonna put this in the Nano Flare category because I don't think that many people even like it, and I've heard even some people from Square Enix said they could have or should have or would have called it Final Fantasy Online if they were going to redo it all. So we're gonna put that away for right now because everything in Final Fantasy 11 is a little bit different. So for lack of MMO, I'm just putting it right there, Nano Flare. So we got Final Fantasy 12. The story, people would say it's Star Wars, and it's got some similarities, but it's totally not. All right, they don't use the Force. They don't have lightsabers. All right, the judges are resembling what, like Darth Vader, because I think like Darth Vader is the only one that wears that much armor. I don't think stormtroopers would count as wearing like Darth Vader scale armor. It's close, but it's not all the way there. So I don't see all of the Star Wars reasons of, comparison. Um, and yeah, every story in this world will end up looking the same if you look at it all at once instead of like separately because it's the same world we live in. So you can't really sit there and say it was a Star Wars ripoff just because the judges wear armor and there's sand in it. Let's go with the characters on it. Now some of these characters were really good. Okay, it's a shame that they started off the game with Vaughn and Penelo because those are like my two least favorite characters. But Barthier and Fran and Ash, those are great characters right there. Really great characters. And then you have Bosch. Not a great character, not a good character, but one of the best at fighting in my style. Pretty much your, let's see, it's Freelancer, I think. No, the Zodiac Age is the job related scenario. So, yeah, this could either be Freelancer or it could be job associated because of the license board. For the Zodiac Age, we're just going to go with that, and we're going to say it's job based. The battles, well, hold on, back to the story. Yeah, most of it's going from location to location and opening up the world, and then yeah, the in-game content is good if you're 100%er because I think this is me personally. This is my honest fact. This is the first Final Fantasy I had to look a walkthrough up for. I have played all the other ones without having to use a walkthrough, and Final Fantasy 12 is the first one that I couldn't complete without using a walkthrough. The side quests and stories just intertwine with each other to where you don't know if you just completed part of the story or the side quest. So we'll go with the next section. Once you brought peace to the world, it's a little different. The story's not too confusing for the most part. The battles, it has everything to do with the gambit system. And when you get good gambits, it's not hard, but when you hardly have any good gambits, it's extremely difficult sometimes to just know what's going on in battle. So sometimes you'd notice like a character's popping too many ethers and you're not wanting them to, but for some reason they just keep on chugging them. Uh, it was not that great of a system actually. It was like an AI for Final Fantasy, except for it didn't really have intelligence. It was just your characters automatically did it. The computer, if you set your gambits right, the computer could defeat the boss for you. Um, so like it was more like the interface that you set up would go against the boss, and you could interrupt that interface and use other commands one at a time. But most of the time you're stuck using gambits. And if you set your gambits up right the first time, you wouldn't have to interrupt anybody's usage. You just defeat the boss. So side quests, again, huge, huge thing. Like in Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy XI, the side quests in Final Fantasy XII can take a lot of time. A lot of time. There's rare drops, there's rare items, there's rare stills, there's rare poaches. Um, there's just rare chests. There's a lot of side quests. I don't know exactly the range of time most people spend on this game, but I think I got 100 to 200 hours in this thing, and I just got to the point where I might start a new game and start all over. I just don't know if I'd ever get there. So, with the cheats, now they have, I think it's 2 to 4 times speed, and then you have, what is the other cheat that they have? It's not fleeing. Um, I forget the other cheat, but they don't really break the game because it still amounts to getting rare drops and stuff like that. And there's no way of like turning on a cheat to always get the rare drops, so it's not completely broken uh, by cheats unless you include trial mode. Trial mode in early stages can get you very good accessories, armors, and weapons, and I'm talking really good stuff. Like I think you can get one of the rarest weapons and the most strongest weapons as like early as level 5 with trial mode. And it might be the Kuma or something, I forget what it was. But if you count trial mode as a cheat, there totally is. There's also the Rex mode, which thankfully exists because I would still be trying to this day to get Satangrat bows, cause like it's one in I think 10,000th of a chance that you get it. Whew, does not belong in Zeta tier, Zeta Flare. It does not belong in Terra Flare. It does not belong in Exaflare either. I am going to put this at Giga Flare, along with Final Fantasy 5, 9, and 12. Just because I hate starting a new game because I know how much time it takes to get through it. So we'll move on to Final Fantasy 13. And I'm going to have to sit there and just say the trilogy, because if I was just to judge this on the first title, it would get a lot of a lower score. I mean, I just couldn't imagine them coming out with Final Fantasy 13 ever again without bringing in the trilogy. It's just, I mean, why would you do all that work just to disown it? But hey, who knows? So we're going to go over the story. It's pretty much some characters taking down their government slash god. And you don't want to, but that's like, you're kind of forced to do it in a way. Because if you don't, you turn into a monster, and they just, you know, they don't have an alternate ending for that, I don't think. I mean, they kind of do, but no, they really don't. So you got to play along with the story. Story has a soft lock on how powerful you can be, because the Crystarian will upgrade during story moments rather than through leveling up. And yeah, the gil you get is completely low and out of stock, it seems, at times. The story, though, it's so easy to get through it. You just gotta pretty much auto battle throughout the whole game until you get to Grand Pulse, which has all the side quests and open world stuff to it. But for the most part in the story, you're gonna be walking a really thin line, and there's gonna be chests along the way. Try and get them. You know, I don't think you're gonna need to walk through again. You might, who knows? But yeah, it's just not that bad. The side quests are not that bad. It does have some pretty challenging enemies with it having a unique battle system that people weren't pros at, which they had to get good or die. But yeah. So with the cheats, again, they don't actually exist for this game. There is no cheats. So I would still have to not be judgmental about it. There's no cheats. Where would I put Final Fantasy 13? It's not Nano Flare where some people would say it belongs to me. It's not Giga Flare or Exaflare. Well, it could be Exaflare. But since I like the trilogy as a whole, I know I'm not supposed to say it. Like, if it was just this game, it would probably be Exaflare. But since it's a trilogy, and I think that the whole story has to be told through the trilogy, I think it's going to be Terra Flare. Okay, just because that that story with all the 3 games, that's some storytelling if I ever heard any. So here we go with Final Fantasy 14. This one has over 4 expansion packs. It has so much to do in it, so many jobs, so many characters, and it has so many cameos from other games. It's great. It's good. but it is definitely not my cup of tea. And for that, this is my least played game out of the whole series. So it's going to take its rightful spot next to 11 and Nano Flare just because of the MMO property. You gotta buy each game's expansion, you gotta buy the subscription to play, you gotta buy PlayStation Live to connect with other players. It's just, it's very expensive, and for that reason, I can't sit there and say the story would make up for it, even though the story's not too bad. So we're at the last two it's gonna be for a little bit, and here we got Final Fantasy 15. The story is incomplete, as everybody would say. The final draft, though, is to the point where you can warp strike throughout the entire game and completely be fine. Each fight that you get in usually has this place called a warp point where you can go and recover all your MP. So if you had like a weapon and you warp striked into enemies and used the warp point, you could just go back and forth and do those until the enemy was dead. But the story, how would I say it? It's good, except for there's like a lack of depth in all the characters. And some people would just like Gladiolus is, how would I say it in nice terms, a mean friend. He just pushes Noctis sometimes, and you wonder if Gladiolus even likes Noctis. I mean, you'll get in situations during the story where you don't understand the four friends really like each other, but at the end of the day, you can tell that they probably loved every moment they spent with each other. The song "Stand By Me" plays, which carefully resembles the movie where the four boys get together and they, travel. I see that reference, and like I said, a lot of people say it just wasn't a complete story. But if you look at how it was finished, it was complete. The Royal Edition completes Final Fantasy 15. You not only have the base game, but you have 4 DLCs where you can play alternate characters in different ways that Noctis can play. So the story might not been Versus 13 worthy, but it was a Final Fantasy story nonetheless. And with that, I'm just gonna give it a little bit less of ranking on story, just because all the characters obviously didn't meet my expectations, because it seemed like there wasn't a lot for them to do in the game except for take a car ride. The battles, I like the link strikes and I like the parrying. The live action didn't get me. I love that Noctis can jump for a change. Techniques were nice. Armiger was cool. Oh gosh, the ring. The ring changed the game. The ring's going to go in the category of cheats, by the way. So we're going to discuss that later. As far as battles go, as long as you attack the enemy behind it, like in its back, you're going to hit for a lot of damage, and you're usually going to team up with teammates to do extra damage. So it's not really a bad battle system. It goes into the section where sometimes you don't even know where Noctis is. Your camera is completely covered by trees or bushes or something, and you just can't lock on to the enemy or see them. But that's why you got Warp Strike, to send yourself to the enemy and kind of get an idea where you're at. Side quests. I think that if you rush this story, you could get done with the game really fast, as if, uh, as in, if you did all the side quests, you'd probably spend about 4 or 5 times longer playing the game. And then, I mean, that kind of goes with every Final Fantasy, but for some reason, it's like Final Fantasy 15. It's like almost everybody's got the same opinion of it, and yeah, if you did like wait mode and all that, they have this wait mode in it, and yeah, so if you want to see it in that mode, you can, but it's just a little different. And if you're going to win contests in Final Fantasy 15, wait mode is one of the ways to go because it slows down the time, giving you better scores on how long it takes you to kill a monster and stuff. Side quest for there were cheats. Alright. Day one patch, delete, right? I think that's like the number one thing. Almost every DLC for this game is a cheat. And that's real nice to say. But how are you supposed to take the idea that you can start a new game after doing the DLCs and have the second strongest weapons in the game because you did the DLCs? I mean, the DLC weapons are pretty much the second strongest in the game. And then yeah, so that's the cheats. There's DLC, pay to win. So where would Final Fantasy 15 mark into my category? I liked it better than the MMOs. I didn't find it as tedious as the Giga Flares. I will think about Exaflare because yeah, it's gonna belong right there. Um, I can't sit there and say it's like better than any of the other ones above it. I can't say it's better than 2, 4, 13, 7, and 6. Just, I can't. So, here we're going to go with Final Fantasy 16, the latest and the newest system of Final Fantasy, the Devil May Cry version, the action-based RPG, ARPG. Where would it land on my list? No, I'm joking. I'm gonna go through it. The story, well, this is 100% a story game. This is a game that is meant to be marveled at, and it would be if you weren't so busy trying to avoid attacks. I know that's a weird excuse, but I mean, I've sat back and played the game and had frustration watching the animations and stuff. But then I sat back and watched like my recording of me doing like Medal of Valor fights, and I have to say the visuals of the fights are so good, and the story. Okay, if you skip the side quest, the story doesn't get tedious. Now I'll admit that, and later on, if you do side quests, it's the same thing, and it gets boring. But if you just went through the story, skipping all the side quests, you'd probably be on a roller coaster of what the heck's going on because you go through a lot and it's not like what's going on. You're not lost. I mean, it's an easy system to find where you're supposed to go. It's at the point where yeah, like the story is a masterpiece in its own right. It is. But the battle system is where people draw the line and just say this has hardly anything to do with Final Fantasy. And they're not really wrong, except for Square Enix owns Final Fantasy and can just name this Final Fantasy they want to. They named Final Fantasy 11 Final Fantasy 11. You know, if they want, it's a Final Fantasy because yeah, it actually is. No matter how many people say it's not a real one, it is. It's just the battle system is more like Devil May Cry. It's less about elements and strategy about using spells. I mean, yeah, there's tonics you can use and stuff like that to give yourself buffs, but it's not really that great to abuse. The side quests, oh, this game's got the worst side quests. Not because it's horrible in all actuality, it's that everybody in this game has the same kind of tone. They start off really not caring about anything or anyone, and then at the end of the quest, they kind of care. And they don't even care that much, they just kind of care at that point. So, the side quests, since there's so many of them, and I would just rather not do it, would put it right. I don't know where we're gonna put it. Probably in Giga Flare. But the cheats are. Let me think what they are. The ring of timely evasion and stuff like that. Those accessories just make the game so much easier that you can get through it going from point A to point B, and when you get in fights, just press square. I mean, over and over again, and you'll if you got like the time of ringly focus and stuff like that on, and you can auto attack, auto magic, auto evade. It's the cheats will carry you through it, which isn't a bad thing if you just want to enjoy the game. So if you just wanted to enjoy the game, it's great because yeah, there's hardly any points where you'll actually be completely stuck at it. It's at the point where you can't level up over level because the EXP is kind of scarce, but it's at the same time where it's got some difficulty to it, all the same. So, um, overall, where would I put Final Fantasy 16? I'm thinking it's going to be Giga Flare. I don't think I enjoyed it as much. Let me think. I actually like I liked Final Fantasy 15 more than I liked Final Fantasy 16. That's a little weird. Yes, this did not reinvent the wheel in any way. So I'm going to put it in Giga Flare, and this will be the conclusion of my list. And I would see if there's any of them that I would change if I was to change any of them. I just don't believe there is anything I would change. I mean, most of it's pretty straight simple. The Zeta Flare are just there because a lovable cast of characters mixed in with characters that can pretty much like fend for themselves. The Terra Flare was pretty good because it takes characters that need preparation to survive and become overpowered, and I got a lot of replayability. Not replayability, but I got a lot of playtime for those Terra Flare um, games. Yeah, like the story wasn't that hard to get through, but to get to the point where I was like absolutely done playing the games, it took me like the longest time out of all the other games. Extra Flare. Um, hmm. I do know one thing that's definitely got a common trend with the Extra Flare is I have played those games multiple times. So each one of the Extra Flares I played about 4 times in my life. I will say that much. I've played them about 4 or 5 times. Giga Flare, how would I say? Oh, those. I don't. I mean, I should probably move Final Fantasy V out of there but the merged world and all that kind of does drag it down a lot. Um, those are good games. They're just almost an emotion that I don't get into. Like FF5 and 9 can be quirky, Final Fantasy 12 and 16 can be too serious. So I don't really like that kind of moment because, yeah, like it throws me off on certain things. It does. So I'll stick with my ranking and I will be done with the video. If y'all want to see more, you can subscribe and see more. But most importantly, if you want to see more, just go into my videos, go into my shorts, go into my live feeds, check my playlist out. Playlists have full playthroughs. Um, Videos, I try and delete videos that other people have done before me. So like if I have say a Final Fantasy 8 video and somebody did it before me, I try and like not do that. So I'll take my video down if somebody's cloned it or I cloned theirs, you know. I just, you know, my videos is what I like people to see. Um, Live stream, those are grinds, completely grinds. And then playlists, like I said, there was full playthroughs. Shorts, I don't make enough shorts, but I'll plan to make some more. You can also check postings where I have little contests where you can choose best of the era for Final Fantasy on the NES, Super NES, PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4 and PS5. So I also have best of era for Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, then 4, 5, and 6, then 7, 8, 9. So be sure to vote for something on my posts. Anyways, I will see y'all next time. And if you missed this premiere, you can always get a hold of me in the comments, and I'll see you then. Have a good day, good night, and I'll see y'all.